Every morning, before you scroll through your phone, before you check your emails, before the world begins its endless demands on you, I want you to hear this message. Just once, but let it sink into your bones. You are enough. Every day, we wake up and immediately begin measuring ourselves against standards that were never meant for us. We compare our lives to the highlight reels of others, scroll through endless feeds of people showing off achievements, appearances, and successes, and somehow convince ourselves that we are lacking. We start the day with doubt in our hearts and a heavy weight on our shoulders, as though we must constantly prove our worth to the world. But the truth, the reality that most people overlook, is that you are enough. Right now, in this very moment, you do not need to wait for a promotion, for someone to validate you, for circumstances to finally line up. You do not need to wait for perfection or for some imagined, better version of yourself to arrive. You are already enough. The idea that you are enough is radical because it goes against everything society teaches us. We are conditioned to believe that worth must be earned, that love must be deserved, that happiness must be postponed until we reach certain milestones. But these ideas are lies that create unnecessary suffering. When you recognize that you are enough exactly as you are, you remove the chains of constant comparison and self-doubt. You stop chasing approval from others because you understand that your value is inherent, not conditional. You begin to see that flaws, mistakes, and imperfections are not marks of failure. They are part of the unique person you already are. Feeling enough does not mean you stop striving to grow or improve. It means you stop defining your worth based on external standards or imagined expectations. It means understanding that your existence alone has significance. It means looking at yourself in the mirror and meeting your own gaze without judgment, knowing that your presence, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions matter. Every breath you take, every decision you make, every step you take toward your goals already proves your worth. You do not need to wait for someone else to tell you this. You can tell it to yourself. You can internalize this truth until it is unshakable. When you live with the awareness that you are enough, life begins to shift. Choices are no longer made out of fear, out of a need to prove yourself, or out of a desire to fill some invisible void. Instead, your actions come from a place of clarity and self-respect. You no longer overextend yourself to gain acceptance or validation, because you understand that you are already deserving. You no longer allow negative voices, both internal and external, to dictate how you feel about yourself. You recognize that criticism is a reflection of someone else's perspective, not a verdict on your value. You are enough regardless of how others respond to you. There are moments when you will feel doubt creeping in, when comparison anxiety or past failures will whisper that you are not enough. These moments are inevitable because life will always test you, and the world will always try to make you feel small. But if you remind yourself consistently, deeply, and intentionally that you are enough right now, these moments lose their power. They become temporary disturbances rather than permanent truths. By anchoring yourself in this understanding, you begin to live with greater peace, confidence, and authenticity. Your relationships, work, and personal growth all improve because you are no longer operating from a place of scarcity, inadequacy, or fear. You operate from fullness, from certainty, from the knowledge that you already possess everything you need to navigate this moment and the next. Many of us live our lives seeking validation from the outside world. We want recognition, praise, approval, likes, compliments, promotions, or applause as evidence that we are worthy, capable, and deserving. We measure our self-esteem by the reactions of others and allow their opinions to shape how we feel about ourselves. Every slight criticism or ignored effort chips away at our confidence, leaving us feeling small, inadequate, and unworthy. The problem is that this approach is built on a fragile foundation. External validation is fleeting, inconsistent, and often unpredictable. It is shaped by factors beyond our control, influenced by moods, biases, misunderstandings, or priorities that have nothing to do with us. If we base our sense of value on what others think, we surrender our power to circumstances and people who cannot consistently uphold it. True, unshakable value does not come from applause or acknowledgement. It comes from within. Recognizing that your value comes from within means understanding that you are inherently worthy, regardless of achievements or external validation. It means that your identity is not a reflection of compliments received or criticism endured, but a reflection of the qualities, choices, and integrity you cultivate inside yourself. Your kindness, your perseverance, your courage, and your ability to stay true to your principles are the true markers of your value. These qualities exist independent of anyone's recognition. They are yours, intrinsic and undeniable. When you shift your focus from seeking approval to nurturing these internal qualities, you step into a life guided by authenticity rather than performance. Relying on external validation is exhausting because it demands constant attention to others' opinions. You spend time analyzing, worrying, and trying to predict reactions, which pulls energy away from your own growth. You bend, compromise, and adjust yourself to fit expectations, often at the cost of your authenticity and peace of mind. But when you anchor yourself in internal value, you reclaim that energy. You make decisions aligned with your principles, pursue goals that truly matter to you, and interact with others from a place of confidence and self-respect. You no longer need to fear rejection or judgment, because your worth is not conditional, it is self-generated. Living with internal validation also allows you to navigate criticism and negativity with resilience. When someone criticizes you or doubts your abilities, it is no longer a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their perspective. You learn to filter feedback intelligently, keeping what is useful for growth and letting go of what is irrelevant. You stop comparing your journey to others because you understand that everyone has their own path and your value is not dependent on being better or worse than anyone else. You become immune to the emotional highs and lows that come from chasing approval, which allows you to maintain stability, clarity, and focus on your own path. Internal value is cultivated through self-awareness, self-reflection, and conscious practice. It is built by acknowledging your strengths, embracing your imperfections, and committing to growth. It is strengthened by setting boundaries, protecting your energy, and refusing to let others define your reality. When you recognize that your worth is self-determined, you gain freedom, the freedom to pursue what you love, speak your truth, and live unapologetically. This shift transforms your entire life because you stop living to satisfy others and start living to honor yourself. The beauty of internal value is that it is unshakable. External opinions fluctuate, fade, and often deceive, but the value that comes from within is constant. It is a foundation you can always rely on, a source of confidence that no one can take away, and a compass that guides every choice, action, and relationship you engage in. Once you internalize this truth, you stop seeking permission to exist, succeed, or be happy. You no longer fear judgment or comparison because your worth has been declared and affirmed by the only person who truly matters, yourself. Every person you admire, every success story you have ever heard, every extraordinary life has one thing in common: mistakes and failures were part of the journey. Yet, society has conditioned us to fear failure, to see mistakes as permanent marks of inadequacy, and to measure our worth by our ability to avoid errors. This belief is false, limiting, and deeply harmful. Mistakes are not proof that you are incapable. Failures are not proof that you are unworthy. They are simply moments in the ongoing process of growth and learning. Understanding this is crucial because the moment you allow mistakes to define you, you stop moving forward, you shrink in fear, and you deny yourself the opportunity to reach your true potential. Failures happen to everyone, regardless of talent, intelligence, or ambition. What separates those who succeed from those who remain stagnant is not the absence of mistakes, but the way they respond to them. People who achieve great things do not avoid errors, they embrace them as teachers, as opportunities to gain insight, and as steps toward mastery. Each mistake provides a mirror, showing what needs adjustment, what can be improved, and what strategies might lead to better outcomes in the future. When you understand that mistakes are part of the natural learning process, you remove the stigma and fear that often paralyzes action. You begin to see failure not as an endpoint, but as a signal, a guidepost, a necessary component of progress. It is also important to recognize that defining yourself by your failures is an internal choice, not an external fact. One wrong decision, one setback, or one moment of imperfection does not erase your abilities, diminish your value, or dictate the trajectory of your life. The internal narrative you create around failure determines your growth. If you constantly tell yourself, "I am a failure because I made this mistake," you limit your potential and trap yourself in self-doubt. But if you tell yourself, "I made a mistake, I learned from it, and I will do better next time," you transform failure into fuel, building resilience, insight, and confidence. Embracing failure also requires vulnerability. It requires admitting when you are wrong, acknowledging areas where you need growth, and accepting responsibility for outcomes that did not meet expectations. This honesty is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. People who are willing to confront their mistakes openly and learn from them develop deeper self-awareness, stronger character, and a greater capacity for innovation. By contrast, avoiding mistakes, hiding failures, or blaming others keeps you trapped in a cycle of stagnation, fear, and self-reproach. Moreover, mistakes teach humility and perspective. They remind us that perfection is an illusion and that the pursuit of it is often counterproductive. Each failure provides context, helping you appreciate success when it comes, understand the challenges faced by others, and build empathy. It also fosters creativity, because when one approach fails, you are forced to think differently, innovate, and explore alternatives that you may never have considered otherwise. Every great invention, breakthrough, or personal achievement exists because someone refused to let failure define them, choosing instead to use it as a stepping stone toward growth. Understanding that mistakes and failures do not define you allows you to take bold action. It liberates you from fear and empowers you to pursue your goals with courage. You no longer hesitate out of concern for judgment or consequences. You understand that failure is temporary, that mistakes are situational, and that your value remains intact no matter what happens. This perspective transforms how you approach challenges, relationships, career, and life in general, because you operate from a place of resilience, confidence, and self-respect, rather than anxiety, shame, or fear of imperfection. Courage is often misunderstood. Many people believe courage means never feeling fear, never doubting yourself, or never experiencing uncertainty. The truth is far different. Courage is not the absence of fear or doubt. It is the ability to act in spite of them. It is the quiet, persistent choice to keep moving forward, even when your mind tells you to stop, when your heart feels heavy with anxiety, or when the future seems unclear. Courage is revealed in the small decisions you make every day to confront discomfort, embrace challenges, and persist despite uncertainty. It is revealed in the willingness to take action when the easy path would be to retreat, hide, or give up. Fear and doubt are natural. They are part of being human. They appear in every high-stakes situation, in every difficult conversation, and in every pursuit of something meaningful. Fear tells you that you might fail, that you might be judged, or that you might lose something valuable. Doubt whispers that you are not capable, that you are unworthy, or that your efforts will be wasted. These feelings are unavoidable, but they do not have to control your actions. Courage begins the moment you recognize fear, and doubt for what they are, temporary emotions, not ultimate truths, and decide to act anyway. Rising despite fear and doubt requires mental strength and a deliberate mindset. It requires the ability to shift focus from what could go wrong to what could be gained. It requires embracing the discomfort that comes with growth and understanding that progress rarely occurs within comfort zones. Courage is not reckless, it is intentional. It is the calculated choice to face risk, to expose vulnerability, and to step into uncertainty because you understand that the alternative, inaction, is far more limiting. When you act courageously, you expand your capacity for success, resilience, and personal transformation. Courage also manifests in consistency, not just in singular heroic moments. It is the daily commitment to rise after setbacks, to continue learning, and to stay true to your values, even when external pressures encourage compromise. Each small act of courage compounds over time, creating momentum that carries you through greater challenges. Over time, the practice of rising despite doubt strengthens your character and builds confidence. You begin to trust your instincts, to believe in your abilities, and to recognize that fear and doubt are signals, not obstacles, guiding you toward areas where growth is most needed. Another dimension of courage is authenticity. True courage involves showing up as your genuine self, even when it feels uncomfortable, unpopular, or risky. It is the willingness to speak your truth, pursue your passions, and defend your principles, regardless of what others may think or say. This form of courage is often quiet, subtle, and invisible to the world, yet it is among the most powerful forces for transformation in your life. It allows you to live intentionally, make decisions aligned with your values, and create a life that reflects who you truly are rather than who others expect you to be. Courage is also about embracing failure as part of the journey. Every courageous action carries the possibility of setback, disappointment, or criticism. Yet those who rise despite fear and doubt understand that failure does not diminish their value, it informs their growth. Courage teaches resilience because the more you confront fear and act despite it, the more your capacity to handle future challenges expands. Every time you rise in the face of uncertainty, you reinforce the belief that you are capable, that your strength exists independently of circumstances, and that your actions matter even when the outcome is unknown. Ultimately, courage transforms how you experience life. It turns fear into motivation, doubt into opportunity, and obstacles into stepping stones. It allows you to embrace challenges with intention rather than avoidance. Courage is not a trait you are born with. It is a practice you cultivate, a muscle you strengthen with every act of persistence, every risk taken, and every decision to rise despite the inner voice that says, "I can't." Persistence is often celebrated when it is loud, dramatic, and visible, a person pushing through obstacles in a way that draws attention, recognition, or applause. Yet, the kind of persistence that truly transforms a life is often quiet, unseen, and steady. It is the consistent effort over time, the repeated decision to show up, to do the work, to take small actions day after day, even when no one is watching. Quiet persistence is not flashy, but it is relentless, and it is this very quality that builds the life you once thought was beyond your reach. Many people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. They look for immediate results, quick victories, or sudden breakthroughs. And when these do not appear, they give up. They do not realize that monumental change rarely comes from a single action or a single moment of inspiration. It comes from repeated, deliberate efforts, actions that compound over time. Each small choice to continue, to push forward, to persevere despite setbacks, is a brick laid in the foundation of a future life that might once have seemed impossible. The key is to remain committed even when progress is invisible, when success feels distant, and when the outcome is uncertain. Quiet persistence requires patience and faith. It requires believing in the process, even when external validation is absent. You may not see immediate results, and you may not receive acknowledgement for your efforts, but that does not diminish the value of what you are doing. Every act of persistence strengthens your abilities, refines your skills, and builds resilience. Every challenge faced, every obstacle overcome, and every moment you refuse to quit adds to the momentum that will eventually carry you to the life you desire. The cumulative effect of these small, persistent actions is powerful and transformative, even if it is invisible in the present moment. One of the most important aspects of quiet persistence is consistency. Success is rarely the result of bursts of effort, followed by long periods of inactivity. It is the steady rhythm of dedication, the daily commitment to your goals, your growth, and your vision. Consistency does not demand perfection, but it does demand presence. Showing up even when motivation wanes, even when energy is low, and even when challenges feel overwhelming. This is what separates those who achieve extraordinary outcomes from those who give up too soon. The life you once thought impossible is built on the accumulation of these consistent efforts. Quiet persistence also involves humility. It is not about recognition, praise, or the applause of others. It is about doing the work because it matters to you and because it aligns with your purpose. It is about trusting that your efforts, even if unseen, are moving you closer to your goals. Humility allows you to focus on the process rather than obsessing over the outcome. And this focus on deliberate action fosters mastery, growth, and eventual success. Another element of quiet persistence is resilience. Life will inevitably throw obstacles, setbacks, and disappointments in your path. Each time you persist despite these challenges, you reinforce the belief in your own capabilities and deepen your confidence in your ability to navigate difficulty. Persistence transforms obstacles into opportunities, difficulties into lessons, and challenges into stepping stones. It teaches patience, discipline, and the understanding that meaningful achievements are rarely instantaneous. They are the result of unwavering dedication over time. Quiet persistence does not always receive immediate recognition, and it may not feel glamorous, but it is the foundation of extraordinary lives. It is what allows dreams to shift from imagination to reality, what turns goals into accomplishments, and what gradually constructs a life that once seemed unattainable. The repeated, deliberate choice to persevere, even in silence and without fanfare, creates a force that is unstoppable, shaping a future that rewards steadfast commitment, resilience, and unwavering belief in oneself. Repetition is one of the most powerful tools for shaping the mind. The messages we tell ourselves daily are the building blocks of our beliefs, habits, and ultimately the life we create. What you hear, say, and internalize every single day shapes the lens through which you view the world, the expectations you set for yourself, and the confidence you carry into every situation. This is why it is essential to remind yourself of your worth, your potential, and your resilience each and every day. Consistently reinforcing these truths trains your mind to focus on what is possible rather than what is lacking. When you consciously remind yourself that you are enough, that your value comes from within, and that mistakes do not define you, you are actively reshaping your internal dialogue. Our minds are wired to absorb repetition. Words repeated consistently, especially with emotion and intention, begin to form neural pathways that strengthen over time. These pathways influence how you respond to challenges, setbacks, and criticism. By choosing empowering messages over negative or self-limiting ones, you cultivate a mental environment that supports growth, confidence, and resilience. The act of reminding yourself daily is also a declaration of self-respect. It is a refusal to allow external circumstances, other people's opinions, or fleeting emotions to dictate how you feel about yourself. Every morning, when you take a moment to affirm your value, your strength, and your capability, you are setting a tone for your entire day. You are signaling to yourself that your internal compass matters more than temporary situations or external judgment. Over time, this consistent practice builds a foundation of assurance that is not dependent on luck, timing, or the opinions of others. Daily reminders also serve as anchors in moments of doubt or difficulty. Life is unpredictable. There will be days when fear feels overwhelming, when setbacks seem insurmountable, and when your confidence falters. On those days, the habitual reinforcement of positive messages acts as a lifeline, because you have reminded yourself before, repeatedly and intentionally. These affirmations are already part of your mental framework. They provide stability, clarity, and direction when you most need it. You begin to trust yourself, knowing that even in challenging moments, your worth, potential, and resilience remain intact. Another aspect of daily reminders is the cultivation of mindfulness. When you pause each day to affirm who you are and what you believe, you create space to reflect, to center yourself, and to connect with your intentions. This practice allows you to approach your actions deliberately rather than reactively. You develop a heightened awareness of your thoughts, feelings, and choices, which empowers you to respond to life rather than be swept along by it. Mindfulness, combined with daily reinforcement of empowering messages, strengthens your focus, reduces anxiety, and improves your overall emotional resilience. Consistency is key. A single reminder or sporadic affirmations will have limited effect. The power lies in daily repetition, in creating a ritual that reinforces your internal beliefs. Over time, this practice transforms your subconscious programming. You start to internalize the truth that you are capable, resilient, and deserving of success and happiness. Your decisions, actions, and interactions begin to align with this understanding, creating momentum that propels you forward. Finally, reminding yourself every single day is an act of self-love. It acknowledges that you matter, that your dreams matter, and that your life has meaning. By committing to this practice, you demonstrate to yourself that you are worth the time, effort, and attention it takes to cultivate a strong, empowered mindset. It is a declaration that you will not allow negativity, self-doubt, or external pressures to dictate your narrative. Every morning, every moment, you reinforce your own power and set the stage for a life built on belief, courage, and persistence. So when you wake up tomorrow and every day after that, remember this: you are enough in this very moment. Your value comes from within, and nothing, not mistakes, not failures, can strip that away. Courage is not about living without fear. It's about rising even when fear and doubt are screaming in your ear. Quiet persistence, the kind no one sees, will build the life you once thought impossible. And above all, you must remind yourself of these truths every single day, because the world will try to make you forget them. Your future, your strength, your destiny, all of it begins with the message you choose to carry inside you.